the front pages of the newspaper to the front of your television screens, we transport you from the print, captivating world of television. Welcome to The Headliner, your passport to the pulse of media. And my name is Curtly Gwindi.
My name is Monica Chanda. Welcome to another edition of The Headliner, where we take you through the trending stories of the week. And boy, must I say, there's quite a number of stories. From your climate change, yes, COP28 is on the cards, to the big one, the budget. Yes, 2024 budget presentation. Done, dusted, and so much more to talk about. But hey, aren't you feeling the heat?
Yes, we are feeling the heat. And of course, on today's episode, Monica, we will be focusing on a pressing issue gripping Zimbabwe. And this is the devastating impact of an ongoing dry spell and relentless heat wave. Now, here in studio, we are also experiencing that as we speak, as the region grapples with these extreme weather conditions and also has an appreciation of all things to do with discussion around that. Monica and I will be taking you through a little bit of that and more. We will bring you a comprehensive look at the challenges faced by communities, as well as the responses from local authorities and the long-term implications for the country's agriculture, economy, as well as environment. And join us as we delve into these stories, analyze them, and of course shed some light with regards to the voices on the human as well as environmental dimensions of this crisis. Monica, of course, this is actually really a trending story, not just in Zimbabwe, but the world over.
So let's get into those trending stories and the headlines. Let's get into the daily news. That's first port of call. So first headline, government in fresh bid to rein in prices. To go after shady traders, shore up producer, as the government taking urgent steps to deal with those resurgent price hikes. And looking at that, basic goods, including striving to provide more foreign currency to the productive sectors and pursuing unscrupulous traders. And what's happening is there are a number of unscrupulous traders, Curtly, and it is those measures, those punitive measures that will probably be needed, because in as much as there's these measures, I do feel they could be even more punitive measures on those traders who are unscrupulous and who could also be spiking their prices. This then boils down to the consumer who bears the burden of high prices. And we are in the festive period. Families are looking to finding something that they will provide their families, and hoping that there will be certain discounts, hoping they will take advantage of the festive period. You know, retailers will probably bring down those prices and give the consumer a better Christmas.
Yes,
but it doesn't seem like so.
Yes, an appreciation of that. I think the forward pricing that you're mentioning has a lot to do with, you know, some uncertainty as well as discrepancies that come with the United States dollar and RTGS dollar. So we'll be looking at all that and more. And with regards to that headline that is coming from the Daily News, we take you straight away to what is being said in the Chronicle of this Friday, which tagged 58.2 trillion budget, which was unveiled as the Finance, Economic Development and Investment Promotion Minister Mthuli announced that 58.8 trillion national budget for 2024, in which he raised tax and raised tax and bonus tax free thresholds in a bid to provide the much needed relief to the ordinary Zimbabwean whose incomes have been eroded by inflation. And yes, this is definitely the issue to do with tax bans that we'll be tracking today in the headliner, having a lot to do with some of the figures that were announced. And yes, we now know that there's a specific threshold and a conversation that will go around someone earning a certain amount and being tax-free, or someone earning a certain amount and being clamped by tax. Obviously, this isn't a bid to be developing our nation, and yes, that figure 58.8 trillion seems quite like a large figure, but taking a look at some of the issues, particularly to do with energy, transport, infrastructure, mining and agriculture, having a very big impediment with regards to, or rather a big implication with regards to our economy here in Zimbabwe, and obviously some of these industries being the backbone of our country, Zimbabwe. But we'll look at all that and more. Perhaps, Monica, what is happening in the Financial Gazette?
Let's talk about the Financial Gazette, and must say El Nino shocks jolt Zim and the late start of this year's rainy season, causing significant anxiety among both farmers. Economic experts have also said they've actually set their sights on analysing some of these impacts of the El Nino. And given that, the rising fears for the country's growth prospects going into 2024. So the El Nino effect, earlier in the year, there were reports, especially from the Meteorological Department. They had forecast and projected that there could probably be some sort of weather patterns along the El Nino pattern. And this has actually come to pass.
Yes.
So what's happening is, I'm sure farmers are trying to understand, what do we do at this point? Do we start planting? I know preparation is supposed to be ready by now, hoping that our farmers have prepared. But the question is, in terms of the late start to the rains, what do farmers do in other parts, those other regions that significantly, normally, actually gets the normal to high rainfall? I suppose they will have to have some sort of irrigation facilities and find other ways and means of ensuring that they get that planting season underway. But it's not such a damp squid, especially for regions 4 and 5.
Oh yes.
Who traditionally they have those drought-resistant crops. So for those farmers in those regions, I suppose they're already set. They know exactly what they need to do, and they've already started to plant. I know for those who are into sorghum, millet, and those who are into cattle ranching, and so animal husbandry, if I can put it that way, they already seen what they need to do. But for those region 1, your region 2, and even your region 3, they are probably going to face the bigger brunt of the effects of climate change, because in as much as we're speaking about El Nino, this speaks to climate change. And need I say, we actually have the Conference of Parties, COP28, underway in Dubai. And today is, of course, the opening ceremony. It is the 1st of December, Friday, to be exact, on the headliner.
Yes.
And this is where the opening ceremony for COP28 and leaders from across the world, and this including our very own president, His Excellency, the President, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, is in Dubai, and he will be at that opening ceremony.
Oh yes, and today being the first, once again, we are also commemorating World AIDS Day, which is a very, very important day with regards to raising awareness around the HIV and AIDS pandemic. So if you are joining us on our Facebook Live, please just tell us where commemorations are in your particular area, as this is across the world, and conversation as well as awareness is being raised in that regard. We take a look at our very last headline, which was read on the 29th of November, on just this Wednesday, which tagged "Be wary of the heat wave," which is a story we'll be taking a look at in our second segment, where health experts and as well as all kinds of environmentalists, journalists, and many other industry players are having an appreciation of this deeper level conversation that is also giving us an understanding of the issue, and to discuss how the story came about as well as what should be done. We take a short break here on the headliner. We'll be looking at all this and more. Stay tuned. Welcome back, viewers. This is the second segment of the Headliner on today, Friday, the 1st of December 2023. We are counting down the days and, of course, winding up the year in this heat. Yes, if you are just joining us, Monica, many of our viewers were tracking the headline that was on Wednesday that had everything to do with the heat wave. Be wary of the heat wave, it read.
Well, we all have to be very wary of the heat wave, which means we need to also keep abreast with what's happening in terms of climate change. The heat wave is not just another random topic or something that we're just going to converse and then just go our way. This actually speaks to what is currently happening globally, and this speaks to climate change, the effects of climate change, and why it is important for not only governments, but you and I, Curtly, to talk about this,
yes.
To bring awareness around climate change and the impacts of it.
Yeah.
And one of the impacts comes to agriculture production.
Yes.
In the first segment, we spoke about how farmers are impacted. The late rains clearly spoke to some of those impacts of climate change.
Yes.
And then the heat wave, we're speaking about, the health issues, because once we have very high temperatures, we also are attracting malaria. We're attracting other conditions that have to do with cholera. We're talking about other health conditions to do with heat stroke. We also speaking dehydration, and dehydration in children is deadly. So it is important that we speak to how we need to notify the public to stay hydrated, to notify the public when we're talking about the young ones, the elderly especially, to always make sure that they're well hydrated. Cotton material is very good. Also avoid some of that heat, especially between 10 and 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Yeah.
That's when it's
when it's at its peak.
It's at its peak.
Yeah. And maybe for the sake of our viewers, if you are wondering what kind of animal this heat wave we're talking about, by definition, according to a very trusted source and contributor here on the Headliner, is a heat wave is a prolonged period of abnormally hot weather. And when the heat wave occurs, very interesting example that was cited here, many people become increasingly bad-tempered. So we are talking about all things to do with the human health system, and one of them is actually bad temper. But yes, just as Monica was speaking about all the implications that come, very, very good laugh we're having here, but it is a very serious matter. All the implications that do come with this particular heat wave have a lot to do with not just human life, but also flora, fauna, animal life as well, livestock, as she's mentioned. And yes, it is also very important that the everyday Zimbabwean needs to stay hydrated. And the deadliness, as espoused by Monica, of young people being affected by this heat wave is actually becoming worse and worse. It's exacerbating in the sense that there is conversation now around many of the rainy seasons coming a little late. And we also need to have an appreciation, Monica, if we are looking at our Zimbabwean climate right now, we do have very little to no rains in some areas. And by then, as we knew, Kurikudara, we had many areas already celebrating very, very healthy rains by now, and also having an appreciation that now in this climate change environment, it's looking like a dry spell. And this comes on the backbone once again of forecasting that has come about the El Nino, that dry spell that is going to happen, that drought. And we would also like to have an appreciation once again of what farmers would be saying. I think it'll be very interesting to have conversations with a farmer at this present moment, just to pick their brain and hear where they're at in this grand scheme of things.
That's where the agronomists come in, not just the farmer, the agronomists. and even the journalists that cover agricultural, issues, get to find out what are the journalists who, the agricultural reporters covering on. What are people saying out there?
We know here at the broadcaster we have John Nandara.
We do have John Nandara.
We should have him
it would
here
be
on the
lovely to
headliner.
have his take. So we actually get to understand, from the media, what are they covering on, and what more should the public be aware of? And when we're looking at the agronomist perspective, when we bring on the agronomist, speaking about the seed varieties, if we are faced with, the El Nino effect, what kind of seed varieties would work? And when we're looking at that crop production, how best do we deal with conditions such as this? And when we're looking at animal husbandry, for instance, how do we treat our animals? How do we take care of our animals when we're faced with, the very high weather patterns? Because even the animals are susceptible to disease.
Oh, yes.
Because when we have very high temperatures, we have the tsetse fly. If you've been to, have you been to Chirundu?
No,
border
I haven't.
post.
I haven't.
You've never?
To the border
I'm
post.
surprised.
No. It's sweltering hot. The border post I've been to is Baitbridge.
You've been to Baitbridge, so you should also understand.
It's sweltering hot. The dynamics of that weather in particular. I know. A big shout out to all those watching us from any of those Chirundu or Baitbridge, and we know that that specific heat is actually deadly.
It is.
And we are also now perhaps going to share with you some of the preventative measures that can stop us from experiencing such weather. We do know that something as simple as littering. Littering itself has a very huge, within our environment. It also just does have a very huge impediment with regards to, first and foremost, destroying the ozone layer. We know that...
You're speaking conservation issues, yeah.
we really want to speak conservation,
Mm.
and something as simple as an exercise. I know I've never done this, Monica. I'm going to swing this at you. Have you ever planted a tree?
This is part of me.
Yes.
I mean, from the school I went, it was a tradition. It was part of the exercise. You plant a tree. I know today, to be specific, this is when we should be planting a tree. The 1st of December.
National Tree Planting Day.
Tree Planting Day.
Yeah.
So in as much as we are also commemorating World AIDS Day, we're also talking about, World National Tree Planting Day. And I always used to plant a tree. We'll plant trees at school. Sometimes we'll just go out into the community, find some of those communities that are in need of more trees, because trees do offer a lot of benefits. And at home, my parents had this habit of also encouraging, tree planting.
Yeah.
So it's important that we observe. When you have National Tree Planting Days, you observe these days. It's not only just the fun side to it, but it speaks to conservation issues. You find when you plant trees, these are helpful. When we're facing floods, for instance, when we have trees, the flow of that water, it also helps in terms of having the devastating flows of those heavy waters, and it acts as a barrier, like you put it, and helps those communities not to be entirely devastated by those floods.
Yeah. Let's talk about the fresh air. It's the oxygen that comes with, the trees that, if you are in a well-grown tree area, you would see and also when it comes then to protecting our environment with regards to global warming, the airflow itself is also very much healthy for our ozone layer, like I said, for our ecosystems, for animals themselves and the humans alike. And yes, we also still in keeping with the preventative measures, we are also speaking about not necessarily always going the route. I always have a good laugh about this because it's still a headline actually. A few weeks ago, we saw a headline from Snoop Dogg, who is an American artist, saying he's going smokeless. And going smokeless meant that perhaps for the uninitiated, those who don't know,
I am lost.
It means that Snoop Dogg is actually choosing options in his life, or he has now made the decision to go smokeless in various areas of his life. One of them was actually a marketing campaign for a specific smokeless stove.
But I get it.
Yes.
You know what?
so
Trying to make sense of going smokeless,
Yeah,
it could actually speak to, you spoke about oxygen,
Yeah.
right? We keep going back to climate change.
Yes, absolutely.
And why we even have COP happening right
Yes.
now. Because the idea is to reduce gas emissions
Absolutely.
to the standard 1.5 degrees Celsius. And sadly enough, you know, developing countries are subjected to the fact they're not massive contributors, but then they're subjected to meet some of these you know, standards, but also subjected to actually come to the table and are then bunched up with the biggest emitters of gas emissions. You're talking about your United States, you're talking about your Chinas and so forth. But when you spoke about Snoop Dogg and smokeless, it just got me thinking the cars that people are also importing. You know, are you sure about some of the cars that you're importing? Are they in good condition? Because some of the exhausts of these cars also contribute to the high emissions.
Yes.
And so it's important that we always have better cars. We purchase better cars, and when the time for service comes, take your vehicle to service and contribute to getting to that standard 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Most definitely. That's simply a few of the measures that we can take to avoid this conundrum that we are in as nations. This is not just in particular attention to Zimbabwe. And many conversation will also be held around local authorities. Like we said here on the headliner, we will be bringing those who are directly affected by this conundrum, and we will also be having conversation around those who are also in positions of authority to come and help us. And we are also going to be helping you by giving you our pages, which is the ZBC News Online, where you can always catch up with the headlines of the week. It's been a very fruitful description of what's going on in our country today. It's also been a very insightful chat. My name is Kurtley Gwindi.
I'm sure Kurtley could have gone on and on for today's segment, but we certainly will be bringing you guests for next week's edition of the headliner as we continue to keep track of those trending stories. So just make sure that you follow us, like Kurtley said, on those social media platforms. Get to share with us some of the stories that probably took your attention during the course of the week. I know we are in the festive season. We will probably be getting more conversations around consumers and prices. We'll probably be getting into issues around traffic safety, because it is important that we also engage you on traffic safety issues. Some of you will be shutting down the shutdowns. And don't forget, we will also be counting down to Unity Day. That's December 22. So we will also be speaking to issues of unity as a country. We speak peace, we speak unity, and we speak development. So let's continue to trend and let's continue to headline on those stories. Until next time, and the crew behind the scenes, my name is Monica Chanda. Let's keep it headlining. Till next time, it's goodbye.